Welcome to the Parenting with Grace and Grit podcast, where every week we discuss behavior and the top 3 strategies we, as behavior analysts, suggest to work on it.
Hey everyone, with the holidays coming up, there will be a lot of travel happening. Today we're going to talk about specifically traveling by car. Whether you're traveling for just a couple hours or across states, we have strategies to help you survive the road trip.
First, we're going to talk about managing behaviors when you're in the car. There may be some meltdowns if you're traveling with small kids. When your child starts losing it and you know what they want, then you can have them ask nicely for it when they're calm. If it's something you can provide at that moment, go ahead and give it to them. And if it's not something you can provide, like they want out of their seatbelt, they want out of the car, tell them when they'll be able to get out. And you can use a timer on your phone or some visual or something so that they know that in, 30 minutes they can get out. There might also be meltdowns because your child can't manipulate their toys or their iPad. So if you can anticipate this ahead of time, go through and see what they've chosen to bring or what you've packed for them and make sure they can play with it independently in the back seat. And if it's their iPad, like a game or something on it that they can't quite do, then that might be something you have to kind of work through while you're on the road. If you're driving, you can just, tell them straight up, I'm driving and it's not safe for me to help you right now. And I can help you in however many minutes. And then if you're able to set a timer so that they can see it. And then if you're the passenger and you can help them, that doesn't mean you necessarily want to be turning around all the time or making yourself car sick by trying to look at whatever they're doing. So you can tell them, I will help you this many times, and then we have to find something else to do. And maybe it's something like we have a lot of experience with is that our children want to play games on their iPads, but they can't quite manipulate them by themselves. So maybe you help them 3 times and then they have to watch a show. And a little tip on that, there's something called guided access on iPhones and iPads that you can turn on, and then they can't exit that show. So you can put on their YouTube Kids and they cannot leave the app. So that could help save some sanity there as well. But in general, timers and other visuals like Post-it notes on the dash with counting down the hours that they're in the car, that can really help minimize some issues so that they know exactly what's coming. They might not have a perfect grasp of time. It's kind of an abstract thing for kids, but it still could help them understand that, I'm not going to be stuck in this seatbelt in this car forever.
Yeah, I would say too that if you notice that they are doing some sort of behavior, whether that's like, kicking the back of your seat or they are, screaming and you keep telling them like, "Hey, settle down," or whatever it is that you're trying to tell them and that they keep doing it and doing it, just trying to figure out exactly what they want, calmly ask like, "What do you want?" And if they have the communication skills to tell you, that's great. You want to maybe give them those words like, "I want attention," or "I want this toy," whatever it may be. So we're just looking for them to communicate effectively with us exactly that they want. And then giving it to them once they're calm or telling them when they can have it. And if it is your attention, maybe you need to um, set a time limit for that. In 10 minutes, we can pull over and mommy can go inside with you and do this, or I can sit in the back with you at this next stop. Just setting that expectation for them can be really helpful.
And the reason we really want to make sure we're having them ask in a calm voice before they're getting what they want is because we don't want to reinforce the screaming and the crying because then it's just going to make it worse for the rest of the road trip. So if they start screaming and crying and you give them something, every time they want something, they're going to scream and cry. If you can wait for them to be calm and then have them ask for it a little bit more kindly and then give it to them, they're going to learn on the road trip and in general that, okay, I need to use my big, strong voice to get what I want.
Absolutely. Now we'll talk about how to prevent these behaviors. So, strategy 2 is going to be discussing what's going to happen and the expectations around it. So, as much as possible, prepare your kids ahead of time. You want to tell them what's going to happen, what those expectations are, and what kind of things they'll be able to do while in the car. And we talk about this so much, but the reason that we talk about setting these expectations is because, children oftentimes don't know what's happening, and just giving them those expectations, let them know like when change is coming, what's going to be happening during that change, and just can really help with those transitions. So, for example, tell your child, we're going to go on a long car ride. We get to go see grandma. It's going to be nice to see her. And, we're going to be in the car for a really long time. We're going to bring your favorite snacks like goldfish and strawberries. We'll bring your iPad, crayons, coloring books, and some other books. It might be hard sometimes, but you can tell mommy if you need a break, and we'll make sure to stop for wiggle breaks too. Once we get there, you'll be able to see grandma and play at her house. And obviously, if your child's younger, they may have gotten distracted or, not have listened to the whole thing, but you can just break that down into different parts for them. Talk about it all the time, remind them, tell them what they're going to bring, what they're going to do when they're getting there, what you might see on the trip. And that can really just help prevent a lot of those behaviors.
All right. And strategy three, which, I'm sure you've seen lots of reels on Instagram, is talking about what kinds of travel snacks you can pack, but it's bringing all of those favorite foods and those favorite activities. So pack them in a backpack. You can let them help you too. Just, give your backpack and tell them, go pick some toys and books that you want to bring in the car. And then it's things that they'll like. We also suggest getting a few new things that they might not see until you pull them out in the car. And this prevents what we call satiation in our field. Basically, people get bored, kids get bored with doing the same thing and eating the same thing over and over. And then it's not as fun and they're more likely to engage in some behaviors. So if you have a few new small things that they don't see before the trip, then it may help keep them occupied longer and just help you get a little bit further into that trip before a meltdown might happen. Some things we love to take on road trips are Color Wonders, water well books, poppets, and then if all else fails, we love the iPad. Just don't overthink it.
Yeah. And two, we would say, just a reminder with all those preferred activities and foods. Like, obviously, it's a road trip. You know, it's okay if they have more candy and iPad time than they normally do. But the important thing to remember here too is to kind of set expectations around that as well. So, it is a good idea to keep some of those things out of sight so that you can pull them out when they need to. But you can also use these preferred activities to your advantage. So, if they are having some sort of behavior and you've told them in 5 minutes, we're going to be getting out of the car, you can also tell them in 2 minutes you can earn a gummy, or in 2 minutes you can get this other toy that you have kind of waited to use for them. So that's why it's a good idea to kind of bring lots of different things. It doesn't necessarily have to be new things, but if it is something that they haven't played with all morning, you're going to have better success with that. All right. And strategy four is breaks. So, scheduling in breaks every few hours so your kid can get some wiggles out and go to the bathroom. It will take longer, of course, but if you can plan ahead and accept that you're going to have to make stops, it will be much more pleasant for everyone. And, if they were really good on that stretch, maybe you can let them pick a special snack at the gas station. If your child does need some attention, maybe you just pull over and give them a few minutes of a break, set a timer and give them some attention, play, etc., and then get back in the car and head on your way. It can make a huge difference in their behaviors throughout the car ride if you do schedule in those breaks, no matter how frustrating it can be for us as adults when we just want to get there and get this car ride over with.
Now it's time for our Grace and Grit guidance segment where we give advice to situations pertaining to the topic from listeners. It's always anonymous, and if you want to write in, you can email us at graceandgritbcs@gmail.com. Hey, Grace and Grit. We always make sure to take breaks, but it's so hard to get my child back into the car after these breaks. He fights us so hard that it makes us not want to stop, even though we know it's better in the long run. What can we do to tackle this? So, the transition back to something unenjoyable after a break, whether you're in the car or not, can be super tricky. So, we would suggest having something really special that he can have when he gets back into the car each time, like a special snack that he only gets when he's back in his seat. Get him strapped in and then give it to him. We wouldn't give this to him at any other time during the trip. It's only for getting back into his car seat or the car in general. You may have to have a couple things, though, depending on how often you're stopping, just so that he's not getting satiated like we talked about earlier. We wanna make sure it's something new and exciting, and if you've given him gummies the last 3 stops, then, the 4th time he's might not care at all, so maybe you need to get chocolate bar or something like that. And again, like Lacey said, they're gonna get more treats probably than normal, but we're just gonna cruise on through. But if you can get something consumable or an activity that you can kinda keep that special just for getting back into the car, it could help minimize. And you can tell them ahead of time, "Hey, when you get back in your seat, I've got this special treat for you," so they know what to expect. Anything you wanna
Great.
add?
No, I think hopefully this can make your road trip smoother this holiday season. And we're always here if you have questions or want some ideas of how you could break up your trip. And we just wish you guys the best.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. If you need help or have additional questions, you can email us at graceandgritbcs@gmail.com. We also have free resources and products on our website. Visit us at graceandgritbcs.com. Thanks so much for listening to Parenting with Grace and Grit.